Welcome to Dialogue. As the global push for sustainability and carbon neutrality intensifies, many industries are making innovative transformations to reduce their carbon footprint. So how are companies transitioning to green technologies and practices? How is smart manufacturing being applied in China and around the world? How can governments and businesses work together to encourage this transition? To discuss these issues and more, I'm joined by Prof, Professor of Strategy at the BI Norwegian Business School in Oslo, Zhang Xianming, Vice President of Broad Group, General Manager of Broad Group Digital, and Professor Liu Baocheng from University of International Business and Economics. That's our topic. I'm Xu Jinduo. Welcome to Dialogue. Carl, I will start with you. You have just attended the Broad Forum for Asia's International Science, Technology and Innovation Forum in Zhuhai. So what are some of the highlights of the meeting? What's your takeaway?
So it's been a really great meeting with a lot of high-level guests here. This is a great location for it since it's in the greater Bay Area that China's putting so much focus on connecting up the different cities here. The key thing, I think, is that, this is focusing on innovation. And China for a long time has been the manufacturing factory of the world. But now it's trying to transfer to be also the innovator of the world. Because to make the higher wages that Chinese factory workers and other people want, one needs to be adding more value. So you need to do innovation for that. And so that was, I think, the impetus for this. Topics that were covered a lot here were a focus on more green strategies for companies, and that was great to see. That's a change, I think, from past years. Also, there was a lot of focus on smart manufacturing. And one of the sessions that went late into the night and attracted a lot of interest was the she power in innovation. So trying to think of all different diverse groups and including the important role that women can play in innovation.
So tell us a little bit, Carl, what's smart manufacturing? When you talked about that, what do you mean?
So smart manufacturing is connecting up all the different machines in a factory so that they're communicating with each other through an intranet. And that allows more real-time information to be collected, more real-time data, and to be analyzed. One of the things that's important is that you're not just collecting that information, but you're actually analyzing that. That's a trap that some companies have run into. They haven't done enough of that analysis. This allows earlier detection when, for example, you're going to run out of a raw material, when you might have a machine that needs to be serviced, or a variety of things. And we see companies like GREE, the largest manufacturer of air conditioners in the world, which of course is based here in Zhuhai and has one of their most modern factories in Changsha. There, when they implemented the Internet of Things, they were able to increase their productivity by 30%. So you can see that there's some real good gains that can be made.
Baocheng, smart manufacturing is becoming more widely applied in China and around the world. I mean, for China, how important is it, in particular at this stage, and why?
Well, China has been shifting more onto the high gear of high quality growth, but to be able to add more value, as Carl mentioned, you really have to go for high productivity and also for high quality of product and services. And right now, China is really cornered, actually, on the other hand. One is that we need to reduce more of our dependence on the fossil fuels. And two is that we need to have more integration between regions, between different sections of the entire supply chain. And smart manufacturing is the way to go. But of course, we also face challenges because if you have more of smart manufacturing, it's going to decouple productivity from the employment positions. So therefore, how to make people more smart and how to make people more adaptive to the rise of technological demand. And this is also a challenge. And also as a professor, I also feel the pressure, how we can really turn our students to be more adaptive and also more of innovative positions to fit into this new arena and new landscape.
It's an interesting point. We'll come back to that, about the impact on the workers, for example, with this more automation being applied. But Baocheng, an important part of smart manufacturing is the Internet of Things, or IoT. How is this transforming manufacturing here in China?
20 years ago, we introduced the SAP's ERP program and trying to connect stuff together, but without the support of digitization, and the ERP didn't really produce a very good result. Actually, not only within the company, but also between companies along the entire supply chain. Now, with the artificial intelligence and the cloud computing, the big data in place, and they are really be there to have the material condition to realize this on a full scale. So therefore, to combine the digital technology, to combine with a larger horizon of the market, and also to combine with more of the Chinese regional integration along the supply chain. And this is highly realistic, and this is demanding. And those who are really forerunners at the front, they will be the winners in the end.
Mm-hmm. We're Xianming from a broad group. I wonder, Carl mentioned about the importance of innovation, or Chinese companies wants to be the innovator. How important is innovation to your company?
Innovation is everything. It is really the culture of the company, at Broad Group. We are a 33-year-old company, and we built our company on central air conditioning for districts of cities, for commercial buildings, and we are able to provide cooling with zero carbon emissions in exhaust cogeneration systems. But throughout the past decade, I think that energy composition has really changed. The energy structure has changed all over the world. So where we used to focus on energy efficiency for gas systems, for gas power, gas generation, for electricity and cooling, but now gas is become efficiency isn't enough. So in the past decade, our company has invested close to $1 billion in energy efficiency in renewable buildings, in modular sustainable buildings. And also very recently, we're building the world's first entirely circular wind power. And it will be also one of the world's largest wind power of 30 megawatts generation. So none of these would be possible if we don't invest heavily in research, especially towards green transformation.
We also talked about smart manufacturing. I mean, I wonder in your group, is this popular? What's the impact in terms of efficiency and other things about your business there?
As the world is getting more competitive, smart manufacturing is really a must, especially in the past 3 years where we had to work against the restrictions of what COVID has brought to the supply chain. That smart manufacturing is able to predict instabilities and help us to really look at an entirety what our supply chain is like in terms of what are the risks and predict future instabilities. And without digitalization and smart manufacturing, we'll probably not be able to continue high productivity. But if we were able to invest ahead of time in smart manufacturing and digitalization, I think we'll be better at handling unforeseeable, for example, black swan events.
Yeah, Carl, obviously, it's very helpful in terms of the digitalization, in terms of Internet of Things. And China, if you take a look, there are many large ports, and now you have the short video clips about the ports basically, operating without basically any workers there. People say that's the Internet of Things or that's a smart manufacturing sort of. So how important is that, the increasing Internet of Things, smart manufacturing in terms of increasing, efficiency and also probably to deal with unforeseen challenges in the future?
So it's critical, and it's one of the things that China has been a real world leader in, that is making the ports smart. A number of Chinese ports, most Chinese ports are moving in this direction. Leaders are, for example, in Tianjin and in the Shanghai port. In Tianjin, for example, they now have a smart port that has 100,000 sensors in it. And they've cut down the time to unload a container ship with 20,000 containers by more than 500%. So there are real efficiency savings to be had. But there also are good things for workers. So, for example, it used to be rather difficult manual work that had to be done in these ports. For example, if you were a crane operator, you were in a little cramped corner way up in the air. Now you can sit behind a relaxed desk monitoring some computer systems, on the ground. So there, of course, are some jobs that are going away and thus need to retrain and come up with new, more highly skilled jobs. But there also are some improvement for workers in their conditions, which is exciting. And of course, indeed, we now start to see autonomously driven trucks moving things around ports as well. I'd also like to mention, now that I'm based in Norway at BI Norwegian Business School, that Norway is a big shipping country in the world, and there are companies like the Norwegian company Yara, which actually commissioned the first boat that was container ship that was fully working on electric power and could be autonomously driven. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this. Unfortunately, large container ships actually do contribute very heavily to the greenhouse emissions and pollution in the world. And of course, China is, a real leader in producing, manufacturing these container ships. So I think this is an area that China has great potential to contribute to the world environmental situation and is starting to do so step by step.
Environmental protection there, of course, important related topic there. Baocheng, earlier you mentioned about the impact on human beings, with this increase of efficiency, increase of productivity, with the smart manufacturing. There are some benefits, but at the same time, there's a concern about the impact on workers. One concern is about, the rise of unemployment probably. What about other aspects, like the skills or what kind of training they need in order to make this sustainable?
Yes, for sustainable development, we need to strike a very delicate balance between economic growth, environmental protection, and also job opportunities. So right now, the government has realized that in order to achieve high quality growth, you need to high skilled people. And now that many of the government agencies are pointing out that workers needs to be retooled and retrained so that they can really be able to master all the panels and all the digital buttons, etc., so that they can really get fitted for higher efficiency. And also the training schools and universities are also being required to revise their curriculum to step up to the real need of those working environment. Now that we have a higher level of unemployment with the young graduates, particularly distorted by the pandemic. And now, actually, one part of the problem is that we need to be able to improve the match between what they have learned and what can be really used for the actual operation in smart manufacturing and smart operation. So therefore, this is really a critical window opportunity for China to really to have a great leap forward, but it's also a immense work ahead, so that we really have an integrated level of sustainable growth.
Well, Xianming, productivity, efficiency aside, obviously there's impact on the human being, on the employees, on your workforce. So I wonder, if you have been thinking of this issue, like what's the solution? What's being done in your company, for example, to deal with such a potential challenge?
I think in China, urbanization will still happen, although at a much slower pace. But industrialization do bring people to cities. And whereas in our factory, where we invest, such as the northern part of Hunan touching Wuhan, the Xianming County next to Dongting Lake, and we generated over 10,000 jobs over the past 10 years, create a tax, and eventually the product that we make in our factory, such as modular sustainable buildings, will become affordable, and because of the elevated productivity of these factory workers, that they could eventually purchase the product they make themselves. So that's really, I think, one of the vision of what industrialization can bring about to better livelihood, to bring about a new model of urbanization. To elaborate a little bit more is that Broad is the first company that's able to bring a whole process of housing production onto an assembly line. And our factory has becoming gradually more and more automated, although that we have cut down on workforce, which is unfortunate at times, where in our automation, before we were automated, we needed 100,000 workers on the assembly line to reach capacity of production of 7 million square meter of housing per year. But now we perhaps only need a third of that. So this is a challenge for sure. But however, is that the jobs that we create on more automated assembly lines, they're able to afford the products they make because they earn much more. So this is really a chicken and egg issue, that do we want higher productivity, higher pay, and later on higher purchasing power? So I think there will be a painful process of a transition into a more automated industrial sector. But I think once we get there, we will see that the workforce will be much more professional, much more capable. At the same time, they will be happier, and they will actually be able to become owners or users of the products which they produce in the factory, and then they would become a happy citizen in the city and join the future economy.
Let's have a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Earlier, Carl mentioned about Nordic countries. They are known for being very environmentally focused, and China is paying increasingly more and more attention to environmental and ecological, using the Chinese term ecological civilization here. So, Carl, what opportunities exist, for cooperation do you foresee between Nordic countries and China as a result of that?
One of the companies that's, I think, been most impressive on the ecological front is the Finnish company Neste. Neste is the largest Nordic oil refinery. And in the early 2000s, long before most companies started thinking green focused, Neste, an oil refinery, said, we're going to stop refining oil eventually. We want to focus on reusables. And this was, quite highly debatable, but that's what they decided to do. To make that work, the top management spent a lot of time, going around and talking to all the employees about this. And now they have the goal that they'll be carbon neutral by 2035, and that their whole supply chain will be carbon neutral by 2040. In this past year, for example, they produced the first fully synthetic airplane fuel. So Chinese companies can collaborate with them, but Chinese companies can also collaborate with a lot of the interesting startups that are happening in the Nordics as well.
Mm-hmm. In terms of green strategies for the business, Xianming, the construction is an industry that is often not very environmentally focused or friendly, let's say. So what's your firm doing, to address this?
So to reimagine how future buildings could be made, so Broad Group is really the first company that, after heavy investment and research, we're able to bring housing production onto an assembly line into under one roof, and we hire professional workers instead of temporary, periodic migrant worker construction through contractorship. So if we are able to we believe we're able to treat our workforce with respect and with security, and then they would be able to elevate perhaps their acceptance and understanding of what a green and sustainable building is, and they believe in this building. So I can confidently say is that every Broad assembly line employee, that they really believe they're changing the construction industry for the better. So once we bring housing production onto assembly line, then we can readily synthesize all the green solutions because we do it all in-house in a way, rather than the current way of construction where everything happens outside. It happens on a construction site where no one really can control what is going on. Can you imagine if you want to create a Six Sigma type of management protocol on a construction site where you are exposed to elements, exposed to hot temperature, but inside our factory, where it is, I would say at this point, it's semi-automated. It's not completely automated. Maybe we are at 70% of automation, but we ultimately hope that we will achieve 95%. And then eventually with automation, an assembly line, really rethinking how buildings are, housing construction could be in the future. And then we could rapidly push the envelope and create more affordable green buildings. Because today the challenge isn't that there aren't solutions, is that the solutions are not affordable. But through using industrial thinking and then apply it into the construction sector, because this is really crossing sectors. And if we could synthesize these two sectors as one, I believe we can make green housing more affordable. These solutions be more affordable, so everyone can afford it.
It seems that there's some room to improve. Baocheng, based on your investigation, your study and research about the Chinese companies, Chinese businesses, what do you say about their, let's say, their willingness or readiness to adopt a pragmatic green strategy, and how far they have been doing in that direction, how much they have achieved?
Well, I should say all of the Chinese companies are on the same page in terms of the importance of green development. However, the challenge lies that because China is continuing to be the manufacturing hub, not only for China, but for the entire world. So therefore, we have so many industries, and where we need to have, building companies, we need to have cement companies, we need to have the petrochemical companies, etc. So China is really shouldering the burden of market demand for the whole world. So therefore, that's something that's pretty much challenging. The government has been so tight and pushing forward, both at the central and local level, for green development. So one practical achievement is that the companies are really introducing more of the innovation program by reducing the emission, and in the meantime to boost the energy utility. And second, that many of those banks and funds are also getting mobilized to support the green finance to the companies. And actually, many of the municipal governments like Shanghai and Beijing, they are offering more of the reward and subsidies for the green transition. So eventually, it is really the integrated efforts of government, businesses, and consumers and NGOs that are able to push forward for substantial improvement. But now the biggest challenge is still the Chinese energy composition. because more than 50% of the Chinese energy supply is relying on the burning of coal. Although the quality is getting improved, still we are far behind the world in terms of the renewable energy supply and also the more of the environmentally friendly use of those energies. So this is something that we can really make substantial improvement and contribute to the betterment of the Chinese environment and also the Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm. Carl, lastly, Baocheng mentioned about consuming more green energy. I wonder, what opportunities exist for energy to become greener in China? And is there anything China can learn, say, from more countries probably in this respect? They are doing better probably in this regard?
So I think there are a number of things that are interesting examples one can learn from. In Norway, there is the highest usage per capita of electric vehicles. In fact, about 75% of electric vehicles now are electric. And by 2025, of new electric vehicles that are sold are electric. And by 2025, it will not be allowed to sell gas or diesel powered cars anymore. This is a great opportunity for collaboration between China and Norway, and was largely pushed forward by government incentives like cheaper parking for electric vehicles, cheaper tolls, taking away the VAT on electric vehicles, etc. So great opportunities for collaboration. And in fact, the electronic vehicle manufacturers from China often do use Norway as a testing ground. But I think there are other interesting things if we look around the world that China can learn from. There's some really interesting startups like Intercom, which is a Canadian startup that is actually taking trash to convert it into usable products to run cars on, if you can believe it or not. Sounds futuristic, but it's actually already here. There are also companies like Winnow, which is analyzing food waste from kitchens. About 20% of many kitchens in restaurants is food waste, and they're trying to cut down on that by identifying what's there and working with restaurants. And then there are companies like Hala, which is a startup that recycles used mobile phones and tablets. It's created more than $4 billion for their owners. So you can see that one can make money out of this and save more than 6,500 tons of trash by taking the components and being able to use those again. So there are a lot of interesting opportunities if we think creatively. And to tie into the last question, there were actually a study at New York University that showed that return on investment for companies that had an ecological focus baked into their strategy was actually 18% higher than companies that did not.
Well, on that note, we are coming to the end of today's show. Many thanks to our guests. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. I'm Xu Qingduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.